John Meadows here, back with Mario Novo, and today we're going to do another exercise index video for you. And we're going to do an exercise for your serratus anterior. It's a very important muscle, doesn't really get a lot of attention, but we're going to do an exercise today. Mario's going to demonstrate it, so if you could just, actually, we have another guest here. This is Nick.
Hey, what's up?
This dude is ripped. All right, so Nick is going to do it, and then I want to try it because I've never actually tried this exercise before. So Mario is going to walk you through why would you even do this. So let's have Nick do it, and then let's see how the old man can do. All right?
Sounds good.
All right, so just walk him through here.
All right, guys, so most importantly, where is this muscle? So let's have you raise up your arm. All right, guys, so this muscle is essentially, when we get low enough body fat percentage, you're going to see these little
shark teeth.
Yeah, shark teeth come out of the ribs. That's actually the serratus. So it lays right underneath your lat, and it's going to run all the way around and attach to the inner part of your scapula. So if here's this bone and I lifted it up, that muscle is actually starting from here and wrapping all the way around. So what it does is it helps to keep your shoulder blade adhered or stuck onto your ribs so that when your arm goes into an overhead position, that scapula can stay nice and flush. And why that's important is because if it doesn't and it wings off you, which we can actually show them on this arm, right? If we have any amount of winging that's happening, that scapula is going to cram down on a couple tendons that lay right underneath this shoulder blade bone, which is your rotator cuff, and that's going to hurt. And if you do it long enough, you're going to end up with essentially a rotator cuff injury. And we want to avoid that because that means that longevity, right? If the more that we can avoid that injury, you can see some of that winging right here. The more we can avoid that injury, the longer we can train for. So let's go through the actual exercise and what it would be. So I'm going to have Nick, you're going to start basically on hands and knees on the floor, okay? And this would be the easiest way to start. So as he sinks himself down and those scapula come together, that serratus is now on slack. As he goes ahead and presses himself up, the serratus is becoming active. You can see how it's keeping the shoulder blade onto the rib cage, okay? This is a way to get started with it. If I want to increase the challenge on Nick here, he's strong enough, he can tolerate it. I'm going to have him lift this arm up off the ground, and I'm going to have him perform it with a single arm. So as he goes down and go ahead as he presses up, what we should see, go ahead and go on down. See how that scapula is coming in? Now it's pressing out, sticking onto the ribs. That's serratus. If I can put my hand right up underneath here and feel it, it's contracting very, very hard. The progression for him to do now would essentially go ahead and start with two hands again. Go into a wide push-up position for the feet. Okay, again, he could start here with two hands, dropping down, pressing himself up. I would want to cue him to not bring his shoulder blades up to his ears. We're trying to keep a nice long neck position by keeping that scapula there. Just gives us the best position to fire. Right, and his now progression is going to be again to lift that arm up and perform it in a single arm position. Just like that.
That looks hard.
Yeah, these are really good. These are going to help you to get better, not just at your push-up, but a lot better at your bench press and a lot better at your overhead press. The problem that happens a lot with the serratus and how it can get weak without you even knowing is when you do a lot of benching and you're following proper bench etiquette, which is to bring the shoulder blades back, that muscle's never getting recruited. So although your bench is improving, right, that muscle is not getting enough demand to it. And where it's going to start to affect you is as those arms go up to press, and then you start developing that shoulder pain. So we want to make sure we can give it some attention. John's now going to go ahead and give it a shot himself.
Okay.
So again, this would be his starting position. From here, he's going to press straight up. If this was where he had to start and this was the only place I could put him in because it was just too unstable, I probably would load him first with my hand. Go ahead and come up. Press, 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 and just give him some manual resistance. Go ahead and come back down. Right? Or I would put a band around him and have the band give him some resistance. Go ahead and just switch to one arm now. Up. Now don't twist. The trunk is trying to stay stable. Yep, and you're just going to press up. So my hands are going to go around his shoulder blade. Press up. And again, he would receive some manual resistance that way. Or if it's just enough, might just be body weight. Now, if he was ready to progress, both hands, he's going to go into a real wide push-up. So you have to widen those feet as much as possible. And again, from here, he'll press. I can provide some manual resistance again. Or he can do it with a band. If he's by himself, he can have a band around his back, holding onto his arms. And John, if you're ready, we're gonna have you basically hold on with one hand, get as flat as you possibly can. Yeah, these are not easy to do. Yep. And now this is actually a way that you would start with single arm push-ups if that was even a goal.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Are you driving through your palm? Are you really pushing through your palm?
You're trying to basically imagine your arm as just one stable bone where basically your elbow is not hinging and your wrist is not hinging. If you guys do have wrist pain when you do this, like a lot of people may, it would be best to do these either on knuckles, grab a small like hex dumbbell so you can use it, or some little parallel bars. That'll allow you to basically be in this position and go through the press, right? But notice the wider you get, the more focus is actually driven through the scapula. If you're too narrow with the feet, you're gonna basically just fall and roll right over. So the width of the legs is really important to get the best bang for your buck with it.
Okay, one last question. So, like how many reps, how many sets, how many times a week? Like how do you program this in?
So because this muscle is a stabilizing muscle, it's not necessarily designed for large amounts of force generation. So it works best actually with isometrics. So prolonged holds is a good place to start. Yep, where you'll have that hold and generate that tension. You might want to start with like a 10-second hold or a 30-second hold. Okay. If you didn't want to go through the holds and you're just going for pure activation, you're probably going to need like 25 up to 35, maybe even 40 repetitions to start to feel that burn digging into the ribs. Again, because it's a stabilizing muscle, you can hit it more often throughout the week. It's not one that's going to basically receive a lot of damage. So you're looking at potentially even up to like a 3 times a week, 4 times a week approach. This could be done actually before you bench press. It could be an activation technique, or it could be part of what we call some grunt work at the end of your workout session, because you're already going to be kind of tired. Say for example, if you did some benching that day and you did some tricep work, it's even better because now the stabilizing muscles aren't there, and it's going to really drive a lot more of that serratus anterior to have to fire a lot harder. So I'd say to keep it simple, at least work to a point of fatigue either with isometrics or high reps, at least 3 times a week. And a good place to start is probably to hit at least a 3 to 4 week beginning program. Really do some work into it as best as you can, especially if you have shoulder pain. I know a lot of the patients that I see that even have labral tears are able to do this without any pain, because the reality is that when that serratus kicks in, it stabilizes that shoulder blade, which helps to stabilize the actual, what we call shoulder joint, the glenohumeral joint. And many times that's exactly why these guys even ended up with a labral tear or a rotator cuff tear, is because that muscle just wasn't being recruited sufficiently. So it's what we use a lot in rehab. One
more question. What about doing it before back, training back? Does that make any sense?
You could, because mind you, when you're doing back exercises, the scapula is going to be going in the opposite direction. So activating the serratus kind of puts a pre-stretch on these guys, and it might be a way to sneak in some more volume if your work week is just too busy.
I was just wondering, would it be counterproductive or would it be productive?
Remember, all muscles are going to always work in an agonist-antagonist way. Right. So I don't see really there being much deleterious effect to it. And in fact, you know, it's a big scapular stabilizer, and it may, when you're in the overhead position doing a lat pull down, help to keep that scapula in a better position to actually allow the lat, the lower trap, mid trap to perform better. Yeah. So there is good synergistic carryover even for a pull, although it is largely used to stabilize a press.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.
If you like that video, I know you're gonna love my app, available on the Google Play Store for Android, iPhones, in the Apple Store. There's so much information on here, it's amazing. Training, workouts, hundreds of workouts, nutrition methodology questions, chemical enhancement, supplementation, client prep, and a Q&A button. Check it out.